Good evening, this is Smita Mishra, and I'm so sorry there is so much light. I can't see each one of you, but hello. I'm from New Delhi, India, and I've just arrived a couple of hours back. So if I act drunk or talk crazy, then you know that international flights give free alcohol, right? So, yeah. We're going to talk here about building software for the next generation. Quick background on me is I've been working in the space of software technology, mostly into testing, for about 20 years. Last 4 years, I moved a little away. I would rather, instead of saying moving away from technology, I would say expanding on my horizons of the world and leaning more towards sustainability and trying to understand how we could really build the world better. Just a quick brag, and as part of that, I have my own firm, a startup called Fandoro Technologies, based out of Delhi. We have offices in Bangalore and Mumbai also now. Quick brag, we represented India at the G20 summit this year, last month, at Indonesia for digital innovation in sustainability. I'm part of Young Sustainability Innovator as part of United Nations Global Compact program. And we also got awarded as the Startup of the Year last year by our Government of India, United Nations Women, and NASSCOM, which is a body in India for software solutions. And finally, we are one of the 50 globally recognized startups who are supposed to be working on the Gandhian philosophies and principles in the current era. So that's my background, that's what I work on. Back to the session today, these are the quick takeaways, key takeaways that we're going to talk about. We're going to set up the context for you so that you understand the perspective that we are trying to bring in here, which is more around sustainability, sustainable development. So I'll give you a very quick background on that so that you understand where I'm coming from, and then take you through that, how does that really impact the development or probably building up the software or the testing and the quality factors. Okay. So again, quick context setting here. These are the numbers from just India. I haven't taken global numbers right now here because that would be too much of work to find the right source, collating them. I did not want to scare you with the huge numbers, but at the same time wanted to show a quick reality. We really are spending about 150% of our healthcare budget as India just on managing air pollution. That's the grave reality. From floods, and it's like there are numbers about forest fires, floods, biodiversity, hotspot missing, poverty, and if somebody doesn't know hotspots, these are areas where there is very critical flora and fauna, and because of human settlement there, they could vanish. And that we had 4 such biodiversity hotspots in India, identified around Nepal and things. They're all 90% gone. We don't have any more of them. So this is the reality that we are living in. We have tremendous floods, tremendous forest fires, and most people here, if you are from Europe, you would know you've had the worst floods and worst forest fires, both of them this year. So this is the world we are living in. So that's the context that I wanted to set up. And for a world to do progress and development, but still do it in a way which it does not hurt the future generation, it still allows the future generation to work for themselves and have those resources replenished. That's sustainable development, a very specific definition mentioned here by Gro Harlem, who's first talked about this, probably in 1987. And most times when I talk about this in the technology forums or with technology people, they are like, we are not manufacturing anything. We are not into hazardous pollutions. We don't do waste, we don't create waste. We don't use water as much. So really, what do we have to do with it? But resource depletion is not going to just touch one vertical, right? When floods come in, they don't choose that, okay, I'm going to hit those who work in pharmaceuticals. I'm not going to touch those who are working in technology. That's not how it works. So it's going to impact everybody, all of us. And therefore, it's important for all of us to work towards it. In fact, the smarter businesses look at this as an opportunity. They'll say, we are cleaning oceans and making shoes of those plastics. Here it is. If you buy these shoes, you're going to feel better about it. I'm not saying that they're greenwashing, they're not making a fool of us. I'm just saying this is an opportunity for them. This is how they look at it. They could have said, oh, why should we be cleaning oceans? It's not our job. But instead, they converted that into an opportunity. And that's what most smarter businesses are doing today. In fact, they have started to measure themselves on this. Their managements have started to get, their payments have started to get linked to these sustainability goals. If you're not meeting these goals, you're not getting your incentives. So there is all the larger organizations, smarter organizations, organizations that have been built to last are taking this into cognizance. Some time back, I think in one of the sessions when Sigi was speaking, there were 2 points that they made. They showed the pyramid of performance testing and quality of factors of software, and they said, while it should be useful, deployable, there were some points at the bottom. The topmost point was successful. And they said that in the pyramid, if the software has to really be successful, these are the all things, but only when it is successful, you really, you're going to say that we did something, we built something right. Second point that they also made was that the depth of testing would be really defined by the amount of risks that it is carrying, the software is carrying for its user. And that's where we need to also understand. Similarly, it goes for the businesses, whether it is tech business, whether it is non-tech business. Here is the global risk perception by World Economic Forum for this year, wherein, and if you can, oh, I'm so sorry, I just plugged it out. I wanted to show it here. Did I do something? Okay. So here it is. These are the short-term risks that the world sees. And if the fonts are very small, don't worry, I'll just help you with what I'm trying to say here. These are the midterm risks, these are the long-term risks. 0 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years. And all the purple lines are those which are the technological risks. So here it's the cybersecurity failure in the short term, digital inequality in the short term, cybersecurity failure again in the midterm, and adverse tech advances in the long term. Which means at one end, we do not have sufficient digital infrastructure and we have digital inequity. On the other hand, we are actually going towards advancing adverse tech advances. We are not happy with the kind of innovation we are doing. But when they put all of these together, they wanted to really come up with top 10 global risks. What are the top 10 global risks for businesses across the world that we should be looking at? None of them is purple. So did we do very well as digital team? No. We did not improve on our digital inequality or the infrastructure or the cybersecurity failure. The problem is the climate change action failures and the extreme weathers have become such huge problems. The rest of the issues have become so huge that the technological challenges and issues couldn't find a place in top 10. We didn't improve, it's just that there are other humongous issues which world needs to focus on. Why are we talking about all of this? Okay, very quick, this is a huge slide which is a discussion in itself, but just to tell you that the world is understanding there are risks, there are areas where they have started to do some risk mitigation. In some areas, they're not as much of started, but a lot of them you will see that there is some early development in how we could mitigate these risks. So that work is going on. This is not something I'm going to discuss right now. I just wanted to share with you that if you are interested in understanding these risks, you could probably go up later and see how the world is really working on this. Countries, nations, all of them are understanding this. Europe is one of the front runners in understanding and accepting that there are issues with respect to society impact, social impact and environmental impact of technology also and otherwise. And so most of the nations are coming up with their own regulatory landscape. Things are changing very, very fast. So whether it is a tech company or not, all of us are falling into that landscape of having to follow these regulatory requirements on sustainability, responsibility. How are businesses really integrating it? They have understood that it's not about doing good or doing business. They do it together. There is something called ESG, your environmental impact, social impact, and governance, and they follow it. You don't need to study this. I'm just saying that there is something called ESG through which they measure their impact, but that's not enough. That's not enough, and that's where businesses are now forthcoming and saying, okay, I'm not just going to handle sustainability, I'm going to actively, I'm not going to backward plot it that, okay, everything that I've done good. I'm going to actually be doing forward looking objectives. I'm going to declare it that here are the negative impacts and here which I'm going to decrease of my business, and I'm going to increase the positive impacts of my business. And they are seeing results. There are more consumers, more investors, more business lines they could come up with. The new age employees they employ, they want to work with purposeful and purpose-led businesses, and therefore it makes all the sense for businesses to really work on this. The idea is to do value creation not just for the investors or the shareholders at the end, but at every step for everybody, all the stakeholders. This is the philosophy, and I'll come back to this sentence. Sustainability is to the next economy what digitization is to the current one. So every businesses today have to be digitized to survive. Every businesses, in my view, tech or non-tech, will have to adopt sustainability to survive in future. Otherwise, they'll lose their social license to operate. People would simply say, I'm not going to work with this company, or I'm not going to buy from this company because they don't do good enough for the planet. Okay. Is this the thought coming up? Like, which session are we in? Are we into a developer conference? Are we into a sustainability conference? COP27 is going on in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. Are we sitting there? No. So this is a tech conference, and we are going to talk about how technology is related to all of this. So enough of sustainability. So this is the slide which is probably the core of what I'm trying to talk to you today. We all know that the new age kids today, or in fact even 10 years, 15 years back, who are born, so I would probably be very, very old. I would probably be here somewhere. But the new age people have forever been into tech. Our kids, if any one of you have young kids, you know that they just take it to, technology as fish takes it to water. It's like natural. They are able to understand a lot of it. And their starting point on technology is very different from what it was for us or what it was for our parents. So they are evolving in a very different way. These users are very different. And therefore, there are some of them at this moment who are actively working on colonizing Mars. A lot of our value, money, all of it is being spent on it because there is a section of society that believes that's important. There is a section of society that believes that needs to be done. We need to colonize some other livable planet nearby. And there is cryptocurrency which is going on. At the other end, if you'll also see, I don't know how many of you are interested in innovations and new technology trends coming up, you'll see a lot of good work being done around electric vehicles, batteries, climate tech, software or climate tech technologies, agri-tech, health tech, fintech for financial inclusion of the bottom of the pyramid. There are various new solutions, various new apps, various new platforms coming up in this area where the focus is on optimizing resources. So that, because you can't recycle your way to waste management. So there's a whole lot of focus in optimizing your resources. There's a whole lot of focus on responsible production and responsible consumption of resources. That's one side of the technology that we are talking about. There are a lot of these technology trends. I don't need to introduce these to you. These are the words we keep hearing every day. And so these new kids are here, or new people who have forever seen tech are here. There are some people who have learned and been there. Maybe a couple of years elder to us, or maybe people who are whatever age, people who are able to learn and are able to adapt technology. They're good, they're here. They may not be as fast as them, they may not be thinking of innovation here or here, but they are able to pick up things and run with it. But then there is a whole new set of users. Like when I was talking to you about those companies who are looking at sustainability as a business opportunity, there are this whole new set of users who are just going to come out of their poverty, just going to enter the middle class or the lower middle class globally. We call them the next billion users, next billion internet users. They will be having the economic power for the first time to have a smartphone or use internet. So that's, some people like to loosely call them the global poor, which would include criminals, deviants, virtuous beings, entrepreneurs, self-organizers, victims, and many more. So there's this, if you go on the next billion users by Google, you will be able to see some of these definitions. It's not by them, it's somebody else wrote it and somebody else has describing it. I forget the names, but you could see this definition there. And then there are elderly people with money. Now these people don't understand technology as well as typical many others do. When I say don't understand, in the sense they don't understand they're naive in the sense they really believe that if somebody has sent them a link to click so they can get money or they can see somebody's photograph or they can do something, then that is true. And those are people who are probably who haven't yet seen the dark side of the net, who aren't used to technology people. So those are the elderly people who still have money. So there are a set of devious people interested in kind of tapping them. So those are the users that we are right now talking about. And these are the technologies that we are talking about. So there are two spectrums. One is highly evolved technology people. One is catching up people, or rather don't understand technology as well, or who are going to be coming up to use technology and internet for the first time. And then there are two, again, varying spectrum of evolution, or I would say technology innovation, where at one end we are talking totally about Mars colonization, cryptocurrency, where people really, even some of us who would probably be a little bit more confused there because they wouldn't understand all of it. But then there are other places where they are constantly working towards making the current planet a better place, current livability better. So these are, and as I mentioned, that we're going to talk about this particular set of users here. And those are the next billion tech users. This is the definition on the Google, if you could look up. What they're talking about is they're very similar to us, or I wouldn't say us, I would say the previous users, in terms of what are they looking for? Information, entertainment, empowerment, convenience. But they're a little bit different. And just to put that in context, yes, users are driven more by leisure. So today, if you look at the new users, they are more into the gaming, the social media. They're more driven by these. Their adoptability of software or technology, or internet rather, their adoptability of internet and technology happens more on these sites. And then, of course, some of it is forced also, because today, if I don't have my phone, I don't think I can even travel this far. There is no way I can travel. There are so many levels of technology in my travel that I cannot be traveling if I'm not a tech user, I'm going to be very lost. Financial inclusion, banks are going totally neo. There are health and wellness issues. Physical security, a lot of SOS is inbuilt these days. Data security is, of course, one of the key reasons. What are the challenges that we are seeing here for these users? What are the features? So these typical users, the next billion users that we are talking about, the new age user that we are talking about, whom we are looking at to serve as a business, they probably have lower incomes, less formal education, live in less developed areas, and have unreliable internet. Now, most of them go back to the risks we originally saw. Digital inequity, breaking down of digital infrastructure, cybersecurity failure. Most of them could potentially come from here, having this background. Most of those risks could be more related to these features. And therefore, the challenges for serving this set of users would be value pricing and economical, because they have to be very, very these users typically are value conscious. Gender inequality on internet. 2/3 of the internet users are men. And also, I would say here, I don't know if I put it somewhere. Quite a few percentage, I don't know the exact number, but quite a few percentage of women are using shared devices. They don't own a device. Quite a few of them are actually using somebody else's device and working with them, which means the content they look at, whatever they're consuming, whatever they're doing, is not in the private space. So how freely can you really interact? How freely can you really consume content or create? So that gender inequality is there on the internet, and it's security, and therefore that leads to security issues also. A lot of, because somehow these algorithms, these developers, women in tech has been a long pending issues, has been a long standing issue rather, but a lot of these is now beginning to show up. These algorithms which are maturing up, which we have put in production, we are seeing the way they recognize faces on the airports, or the way they respond to a lot of our queries, and we could talk about examples, but basically they're a little biased. I wouldn't necessarily say, when I say unethical AI, it's because there are a lot of code of conduct of the modern world, which apparently our algorithms don't seem to adopt naturally. We have to be conscious that we cannot bias our algorithms. Backward compatibility on devices. Every day there is a new version of device. There's a new version of, super expensive devices coming up. And the apps, so which I think these new age users will have a difficulty adapting to it, because we're talking about those users who are using smartphones for the first time, and they may not want to change it every 6 months or even every year. So can we build such software which is going to, have some longevity as well as have some backward compatibility with the existing devices? So what are the key quality factors that we are really looking at? When I say inclusive tech, this is very specific to if we are wanting to work for these next billion users, if we are wanting to serve the women community on there and make sure that they adopt technology. That's the inclusive tech quality factors. But in general, too, we need to be looking at this. When I say UX intuitive, a lot of times things, while they appear very simple to us, the first time users can't figure out why this feature is even there. What does it even mean? For example, now I'm used to the reels and things. When they initially started, even I was like, what is this about this short video that comes up and goes? It was a little tricky on me to adopt to the reels and videos. It has to be very, very secure. Why? Because there are these SMS-based phishing, there are ad-based phishing. Typical user, the user that, again, that we are talking about, whether they are elderly people or they are people who are first-time internet users, those users are not aware that even the marketing links that we send, the businesses, various businesses who are doing focused marketing, or I don't know, they kind of pick out a certain target and they start sending to them the messages. Those links that we send, sometimes they are abused and misused by various other parties, third parties involved, and they get abused in a very different way. We need to make sure that our marketing links, our ads, our apps in itself are very, very secure. We need to be building things which are good for unreliable internet. What that means is low quality internet. Can we, while we are building for the 5Gs and above, are we going to totally ignore that set of user who's probably still struggling with 2Gs and 3Gs? Voice and visual driven. There's a high rate of illiteracy amongst this next billion users also. And what is interesting is one of the maids that works around us, she can't text me on WhatsApp if she needs to. So she uses WhatsApp, she has internet connection, she doesn't know English. She in fact is illiterate, she cannot even type in my local language in Hindi. What she can do is she presses a button, speaks in it, and sends the voice message to me. When she sees something, she understands what I'm talking. If I write it down, she doesn't get it. And this is the voice messaging that they do is very common amongst themselves also. So this is a trend I'm seeing, that voice and visual driven, it should be, if we want to make an inclusive tech. It should work on low-end smartphones. And again, privacy on shared devices, because a lot of these users are going to be using one family phone, or a couple of phones used by many other people in the family itself, the members. So it's not about, when we think of privacy, a lot of times we are driven to think about it in sense of personal privacy, in sense of device privacy. What we are talking here is app level privacy, app lock in the same phone for various users in a different way. So that's the privacy we are really talking about here. Most of it we've discussed. Planet positive, yes. I wanted to talk to you about this aspect of social impact and environmental impact. These are something we do have to think. In anyone here who's ever heard the word green technology and by chance does something in that or has adopted that or works around that? Green technology. How could technology be green? Are we going to make those out of plants or something? What could green technology? Anyone wants to take a random guess? What could green technology even mean? It's powered renewably. So you're not burning fossil fuels to host your servers. So what this actually means is including sustainability as a partner, and I'll come to the green technology part, I've mentioned it somewhere here, yeah. And building a diverse team. So if there is a diverse team, it actually puts all these, it helps you to think differently. If you have women on your team, you probably won't have unbiased algorithms or people of different geographies, different backgrounds, different races. If you have those people working with you on it, you'll probably not have those issues coming up. Community is driving the content, so we better understand and have the right reflection of society into our technology. Giving weightage to background and experience, not just the skill. So when you're looking at a testing team member and you talk about or a developer and you talk about what is the language or platform you develop on or what are the skills you have, sometimes we are very limited to the technical skills and we don't really go back on its application. If you could start looking at applications and understand the background of software they have come from, which would not only give you an idea of the culture they come from, but also give you an idea of how productive, planet positive, good, green that entire technology system has been. If it's not been, you probably will have to train this person more to think in those terms. Hire innovative and invest in R&D. A good company always invests in human capital development. If an organization is not investing into its people, it's probably not one of the best organizations to work for. They should spend quite much. They should be spending a good capex on research and development because innovation is the key for technology in the sense that you stay ahead by doing this. So if you're not investing into it, sooner or later, you're going to fall behind. You may not see it immediately, but it will happen. And therefore, and when I say about green options, again, look at hardware. Hardwares or the servers you host on, or the tools that you use, the offices that you sit in, are they solar powered? Are they conscious about the material they are using in their hardware? How much of it is recycled? How much of it is recyclable? These are things we really need to think about, and these are not something for somebody else to think. These are not only things that maybe a steel factory or cement factory has to think. If the consumers, if we start thinking in these lines, the manufacturers will automatically be driven to do this. So we need to think of those. Responsible vendor partners, we've already talked about human capital development, pay parity, women in tech, inclusive teams. So if you are building a new vendor relationship, if you're hiring a new tool vendor, if you're bringing in a new outsourcing partner, new development partner, if you're hiring any of such teams and if you're building any such partnerships, can you really get into those details and actually look at how much do you spend on the development of your people? Show me how much your topmost women leaders versus the men leaders make for the same kind of job. Can you share those numbers? Show us how many hours of training did you really give to your employees? Can you get to those level of details before forging a partnership with any of these teams? And then again, ethical AI or inclusive, where it's not biased, like I discussed. We really need to consider society as the, I would say, reference point. Just because a handful of us are there at the seat, at the table, and we have the seat and we are talking about it. We build a product which we believe is the best, but when it goes out for the society, even if society doesn't immediately reject it, we have to be very conscious of whether it is the right software for them. Is it the right reflection? Because otherwise, suddenly someday it will pop up that, oh, this particular software is so biased against XYZ community or something. You don't want to be there because that will happen if you're not conscious of it when you're building it. So can we really be very, very conscious of all kind of intelligence that we are building? Because I'm noticing the entire human interaction, entire human interface is moving away, which means that I built some intelligence in my watch, somebody built some intelligence in my refrigerator, somebody built some intelligence in my music system. Now, IoTs, all of them are talking to each other. I am not really talking. Somebody built something on my fitness machine. Now, a lot of things are happening by algorithms. They are trying to define how much I should run, how much I should eat, what I should do, what I should wear. There is a lot of things happening behind all of it, which I am not defining. Are we ready to give that kind of power to machines without making sure that we have built them the right way? So that's what it is about. Again, this is a reflection of ESG tech industry. For tech industry, so typically these are the social impact areas, environmental impact areas. If any one of you, I mean, most of you are from tech industry, but these are the factors you should consider when you are working in a particular organization in tech. And that should be all from my end. Thank you. Yeah. Is there any question that anybody would like to ask here? Everybody looks so tired. All right, thank you if there are no more questions. But I'm still around here today and tomorrow if in case you would like to talk about it. Thank you so much.